Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fanfiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
The moon sets, signaling the start of another day. This day would not be an ordinary day. Everyone could feel it. Today was the day that the lines of fate would be drawn. There was no stopping it, for it was far too late in the game. By the end of the day, the ground would be scorned red, and the victor or victors would have the special privilege to steer this boat that they call the world in whatever direction they desired. The people who felt the pressure of that day the most weren't the top-tier ninja or the leaders of the Akatsuki. It was the simple ninja that were guarding the way to Kumo and Konoha. Even the night before, they could feel the icy cold touch of death and war, and it had yet to let go. There was no reason that the Akatsuki had to attack on this day. In fact, some would even say that it would be too early, but anyone who had thought that knew they were wrong now. There was no big blowout, no speech, no nothing that would put this day anywhere out of the ordinary. Why would there be? There was no proof that the Akatsuki would attack, but everyone knew they would. It was as if the world itself had marked this day as the day the battle would begin, and it would not accept it on any other day. It started at Kumo. The guards, already prepared for the attack, waited in dead silence for their foes to appear. Off in the distance, a cloud of dust could be seen. It was heading towards them at an incredible pace. Even though it was clear what it was, the Kumo guards didn't react. It was like they were dreaming and they would be woken up right before the climax. And it wasn't until they saw the person with pale skin wearing the Akatsuki cloak who was creating that dust did it become real. "They're here!" yelled the chief guard. "Someone inform the village. Everyone else stay here, even if we can only stall them for a minute. That's one more minute the ninja inside can prepare." The guards nobly stood their ground against the oncoming disaster, but asking for a minute had been shooting 59 seconds too high. Naruto blew right past them. He punched the gate, making it twist and crinkle. The gate blew off, creating such a large gust of wind that the guards were knocked away. Naruto paid them no mind as he entered the village. "I told them that it would just be easier to go through the front door," Naruto said as he kicked the gate towards one of Kumo's buildings, which like many had been built around a mountain. That only made it more impressive when it was sliced in half. Meanwhile, up in the sky were two clay birds. Wow, look at Naruto go. He was able to bring down a mountain. Maybe we should just let him handle this, Tobi said, watching the mountain collapse onto the rest of the city. "Don't be such a baby," Deidre said as the bird that Tobi and Kisame were on nosedived. Hey! 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 I'm not ready," Tobi screamed as the ground got closer and closer. Kisame remained completely silent with a smile on his face. Below them were a lot of ninja rushing down the street. They were probably going off to fight Naruto. Kisame decided to help lighten Naruto's load. He jumped off the bird and landed on one of the ninja, crushing him. As the ninja turned to face the new threat, the bird that Tobi was riding crashed into part of the group and exploded. "And there will be more of that if you mess with me," Tobi yelled like a little kid, having had his ego boosted with that display. The Kumo, Kirk, and IWA ninja ignored their previous mission to fight Naruto and rushed Kisame. The man in question gave a smile that could rival Naruto's in the Psycho department before smashing his giant sword into the ground. The village hidden in the clouds suddenly found themselves having some water problems. Deidara saw from above the water rushing through the streets, sending ninja that had been trapped into the current into buildings and mountains, if they were lucky. If they weren't, they were sent to another disaster. Naruto, who wasn't too happy to be suddenly fighting in the village hidden underwater, used any ninja that was swept towards him as a projectile. More often than not, they become a permeate part of a nearby mountain. "We better hurry this up. We won't be able to play for long," Deidara said to himself as he dropped hundreds of bombs on Kumo. He blew up any buildings that looked important, as well as dropping them on random places, just to keep the alliance on their toes. Naruto ran through the streets of Kumo. Naruto didn't have any need or desire to go on a rampage as Kisame. Property damage didn't appeal to Naruto. He was here for one reason and one reason only, to capture the Eight Tails. Although Naruto guessed that going on a rampage was just another tactic to lure Killer Bee out, Naruto would opt for the good old-fashioned hide-and-seek approach. His plan wasn't to find Killer Bee per se but anyone who knew where he was. Alliance Ninja would try to stop him, but Naruto was way out of their league. If he wanted to, he could just ignore them and his reflection would take care of everything, but that would be a slow process and Naruto wasn't that nice. Any ninja that attacked him would just end up as another body on the street. It wasn't long before Naruto ran into someone who just might know a thing or two. Black lightning shoot towards Naruto at incredible speed, but was sent back at the same speed. Come on Darui, we've fought each other enough that you should know that won't work. Maybe not, but I'm not going to let you run around like you own the place, the dark-skinned man said. Naruto wasn't amused at his declaration. Come on, why don't you go fight Kisame, at least then you might have a chance to actually hit him. That may be, but I learned something from our last encounter, Darui said. Your chakra levels are low, so if I force you to waste a lot of chakra on attacks then you won't be able to keep up this invasion. Darui looked pretty pleased with himself and was about to begin his attack when he suddenly felt Naruto's hand around his neck. Darui broke out in a cold sweat. Naruto had crossed the distance between them like it was nothing. Is that really your great plan? Naruto whispered into Darui's ear. Did you really think that I could be taken down just with that? I only have a very few techniques that make a dent in my chakra, the rest I could use all day and still be fine. Did you really believe that you were important enough for me to use those moves on you? Darui was a trained ninja. He had gone on many dangerous missions and had come a step away from death numerous times, yet he was scared. He was scared not because he knew he was about to die but because of the look Naruto was giving him. It wasn't filled with hate. It was filled with disgusted. He was looking at Darui like he was a kindergartner who had walked up to a Nobel Prize winner and presented an idea that he thought would destroy Naruto's theory. Darui was regretting ever coming up with such a stupid idea like beat Naruto by running down his chakra. The idea that seemed so solid moments now seemed like he had suggested stopping a bugler by locking your doors. Of course the bugler would know the doors would be locked and bring something to pick the lock. It was the same with Naruto. Of course he knew that he had low chakra and would just not use the techniques that used a lot of chakra. You want to know something? Naruto asked. You're the type of person that irritates me second most. You're that person who comes up to challenge me with the first idea that pops in their head thinking, oh, he must have not thought of this, I'm sure I'll beat him now. The only people who irritate me more are the people who come and challenge me with no plan at all. They simply believe they can beat me if they try hard enough. Darui was squirming now. He wished Naruto would just end it already and stop looking at him like he was less than nothing. I was going to ask you about Killer Bee, but you just about ruined my day spouting your nonsense. Besides, there will be other. Naruto killed Darui by reversing his blood flow. Good work, Naruto. I thought I was going to have to come in and finish the job, but it looks like you did fine on your own, said a very annoying voice. What are you doing here, Tobi? I thought you would be hiding in the sky with Deidara, Naruto said, making it clear that he didn't want Tobi around. Funny story actually. First Deidara forgot that I was riding on the same bird as Kisame and set me down with him. Then Kisame accidentally swept me away when he used all that water. But that's okay because I was lucky enough to find you. Naruto clicked his tongue. Why did those two have to drop off the idiot with me? Naruto watched in frustration as Tobi started poking Darui to see if he was still alive. How Naruto wished Tobi would just disappear. Then an idea, Naruto could just kill Tobi. He had been planning to kill all the Akatsuki members anyways, and honestly he would probably forget Tobi was even part of the Akatsuki if he waited. No one would have to know how Tobi died, and even if they did know they wouldn't care. Hey Tobi, Naruto said, walking up to Tobi with an evil grin. Yes Naruto, Tobi said, turning to look at Naruto. Naruto shoot his hand towards Tobi's shoulder. He was planning on just reversing Toby's blood flow and then it would be bye-bye Toby. But that's not what happened. Instead of grabbing Toby's shoulder, Naruto grabbed nothing. His hand had gone through Toby's shoulder. What the hell? Naruto said aloud without meaning to. Naruto looked at his hand that should have been on Toby's shoulder and Toby looked at his shoulder that should have had Naruto's hand on it. Then they looked at each other. Naruto was having an internal crisis. Naruto was scared, not because he was afraid that Toby would attack him. The day Toby became a threat to Naruto would be a sad day indeed, but because if Toby went crying to Kisame, his plan would be ruined. It was true that Naruto was planning to kill all of the Akatsuki very soon, but he needed them for just a little longer. He needed the captured tailed beasts to stay where they were. If the Akatsuki found out Naruto was a traitor before he was ready, then they would defiantly move the tailed beasts. Damn it, why did he have to attack Toby? There was no point to it. Everything was going smoothly, but Naruto had flexed his muscles too soon and it was going to ruin everything. Naruto waited for Toby to run off screaming, but Toby's stupidness and ego saved Naruto. Oh, I see, you were just going to congratulate me for coming all the way over here even with my hardships. Yeah, I can't believe what you went through. Naruto said, his face so stiff that it felt like it was stone. He couldn't believe that Toby had mistaken an assassination attempt for a pat on the shoulder. Well then, let's go find the 8 tails. Pain will be so happy when we do. Toby sang, skipping off. Naruto followed him, not believing his luck had held out. It was impossible. Naruto should be panicking to figure out how to keep his plan together, but he wasn't. His plan was still going on track. No! That couldn't be. Something was wrong. He had gotten off too easy, yet Naruto moved in behind Toby because there wasn't anything wrong. Naruto was still a part of the Akatsuki. The same feeling that swept over Kumo had swept over Konoha as well. And just like Kumo, the feeling didn't help with the actual battle. They were disorganized and confused when the attack finally came. The 6 paths of pain were leveling the place in order to find information about Naruko, because by now the Akatsuki had determined that she was not in the village. However, finding her would not be an easy task because the only people that knew where she went was Minato, Kushina, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Minima, although Pain knew that they were the most likely people to know and was already searching for them. The problems didn't end there. Thousands of papers were flying across the village, killing anyone who couldn't defend against them. There was also the fact that Hanabi, Hitomi, and Mito were helping the Akatsuki. There was mixed opinions on what to do about them, but since the battle was so chaotic, there was no orders about them being passed down, so it was under the notion that if you could capture them, great, but don't hesitate to kill them. Mito was running through the village that she once called home. The sound of destruction rang loud in her ears and the rubble made the village look so different, yet Mito could remember every street and every building, and with it came the memories, the good and the bad. She didn't want them. She had wanted this village to just be another target, but she couldn't stop them. She remembered when she first met Hanabi and Hitomi. She had met Hanabi at one of her sister's birthday parties. All the clan heads and their families had shown up, but that also meant that Hanabi was more or less forced to go to a party for 2 girls she barely knew, so in boredom wandered around and found Mito playing in the back of the room. They got to know each other and became best friends. So in a way, Naruko and Minima had caused Mito to get her first best friend. Hitomi came later. Hanabi and Mito were playing ninja and ran by the Uchiha clan compound. Hitomi was outside the gate sweeping the entrance as punishment for breaking into her father's weapon kit. When Hitomi saw them, she decided that playing with them would be much better than sweeping and asked to join. Hanabi and Mito didn't have a problem, so the 3 of them played for the rest of the day. Although in the end they were all punished. Hitomi for ditching her previous punishment, Hanabi because her father found out she was disgracing the Hyuga clan by running around playing ninja when she should be training to be a real one, and Mito because Naruko had overblown the story, making it sound like she had caused damage to the village with her game. And of course, without even looking into it, Minato and Kushina punished her. There was also her first day at the academy, where she was excited to find out her friends were in the same class as her. But that was basically the end of the good memories. The rest were filled with Naruko's constant bullying, Minima's apathy, and her parents' ignorance. Mito didn't know if things could have gotten better if she had stayed in the village, but she did know that Naruto had been a better sibling than her sisters had ever been. Now Mito wasn't blind, she knew that Naruto was far from a good person. In fact, Mito wasn't surprised that the rest of the world saw him as a monster, but the world didn't know Naruto as well as they thought. Sure, in battle he was brutal and unforgiving, but they didn't know that Naruto during peaceful times would train a bunch of girls that had appeared out of nowhere. They didn't know that Naruto would listen if you had a problem and answer any question you asked. They didn't know that Naruto's power had forced him to fight. They didn't know that Naruto had only joined the Akatsuki because he wanted to stop being attacked. They didn't know that he would protect 3 girls no matter what, even if he would never admit. And last, they didn't know that if they stopped attacking Naruto he would stop attacking them. So did Mito regret leading her friends to the person that would later be known as the world's greatest monster? Not a bit. Mito raced around another corner and there was a Leaf Chunin. He was frightened to see Mito round the corner and fumbled with his kunai when he tried to pull two out of his pocket. Amateur, Mito said, thinking about the scolding she would get from Naruto if she ever did something that stupid. Mito was going to quickly cut off his head and move on, but as her sword cut the air she hit something metal. The Chunin fell on his ass after having been saved by the sudden appearance of an object. To be more specific, it was a chain. Mito realized what was going on and quickly backed away, avoiding another chain that was shot from the roof of a nearby building. Then something else fell in front of the chain, or to be correct, someone fell in front of the chain. Mito smiled seeing the person in front of her. "Why did you save him, Minima? As far as I can see, I was trying to help your village. That guy can't even hold a kunai correctly. He's better off dead," Mito said, trying out some of Naruto's tricks to piss off her sister. Minima looked at Mito with anger, but it wasn't directed at her. Minima's anger was directed at someone who was not even here. "What has Naruto done to you?" Minima hissed. "He showed me what it was like to have a real family," Mito said with no regrets. Minima bit her lip in frustration just as the Chunin was getting up. "Thank you for saving me. I can help you fight." "No, just leave it to me. This is something I have to do alone," Minima said. It seemed like the Chunin didn't really want to fight as he ran off right after he was dismissed. "Wow, looks like you gained some balls while I was gone. What was it? You get tired of being Naruko's lapdog and wanted to be the one to boss people around for a change," Mito taunted. "Mito, listen, I know we were awful to you and I know you might hate us, but we've all changed and we want to make it up to you. There's no reason to suffer under Naruto anymore. We can be a family again," Minima said, holding out her hand. Mito shot a lightning bolt at Minima's hand with ferocious savagery. Minima quickly pulled her hand back and looked to see Mito shaking in anger. "Suffering? Is that what you call it?" Mito yelled. "Being with you people was suffering. You say you changed, but all you're trying to do is turn me against the only person who really cared for me." "Mito, he's a monster," Minima yelled back. "Even if Naruto is a monster and his only thoughts are to use me, at least he acts like he cares, and that was more than you ever did," Mito yelled. "Let me show you what that monster taught me," Mito said, crossing her swords and getting into a fight stance. "Naruto, I know your feelings aren't fake, so I'll make sure your training didn't go to waste. I won't lose." Minima bit her lip harder. If she wanted to get through to Mito, she would have to beat into her. "Mito, please forgive me, but I'll show you that Naruto isn't your family. Your family is right here and we're willing to do anything to make it up to you." Hitomi stood across from Itachi. They were inside the Uchiha compound. "Why did you come here?" Itachi asked. "I'm here to do to you what you did to my parents," Hitomi said, her eyes flashing red. "Do you really think you can beat me?" Itachi asked. "Maybe not, but you're still no fully healed from your fight with Naruto, so this is the best time for me to strike," Hitomi said, pulling out her scythe. Itachi could not deny that fact. He was clearly limping to one side and his balance was favoring one leg over the other, although to give him credit, he was miles better than when Naruto had broken his leg. Even with this handicap, I'm still an S-class ninja. Do you really think you're strong enough? Normally I'd say no, but there's one other thing that has me to believe that you're not as healthy as you appear to be. Hitomi said with a smile. And what would that be? Itachi asked just to amuse the girl. You're not fighting. Even if you weren't in top shape, you'd be out there protecting the village. But you back here far away from where pain would come looking for people who know about Naruto's whereabouts. Itachi didn't give any outward reaction, although Hitomi was right on the money. Itachi had been ordered not to fight due to his condition combined with the damage Naruto did, but it looked like now he didn't have a choice. Hitomi was already charging him with her scythe. Itachi had already determined that. Hitomi was a genjutsu and dispelled it, moving his arm behind him to block the real Hitomi's scythe attack from behind. Hanabi was walking around the leaf very calmly. It would seem to anyone watching her that she must be faking it just to make herself look cooler, but Hanabi was not acting. She really didn't care what was going on. This battle was nothing more than a scene to watch. All because she knew about Naruto's plan, and she knew that this battle had no bearing on the plan, at least not yet. Hanabi would walk around only keeping an eye out for potential attackers, but Hanabi didn't have a goal. She would rather be in Kumo with Naruto, but that's not how Pain decided it, so she was stuck here until the battle was over. The funny part was that it didn't matter who won this battle, at least in the terms of Naruto's plan. The only part that was required was that there was a winner in this battle. All there was to do was wait until the battle here and the battle in Kumo was over. Then all the prep work would be done and Naruto would take center stage. Hanabi could hardly wait. She was already blushing thinking about the life she would have after Naruto became a god. If only this battle would hurry up. Can't these people kill each other any faster? Hanabi, a voice said from behind. Hanabi turned around, already knowing who was there thanks to her Byakugan. Hello father, sister. I was hoping that you would just let me pass by. I see you have grown very confident in the time we've been apart. Hayashi said like he was talking to a business partner instead of his daughter. I have been trained by the most confident person alive. Hanabi said. But enough about that, I know you aren't taking a stroll through the village. Why are you here? Well, I think that would be obvious. The village is under attack and it's my duty to protect it. That's not what I'm talking about and you know it. Hanabi said. Her father had never failed at making her angry. I mean, why'd you track me down? I think that should be obvious too. I request that you came back to Hyuga clan and become the heir. Hayashi said. I can understand if you are hesitant, but you don't have to worry. I will use all my political power to make sure that you do not receive any punishment for associating with. Hayashi paused for a moment, trying to think of the right words. That group of dangerous mercenaries and the Hokage's distasteful son. The Nuwabari trembled in Hanabi's hand. You really haven't learned anything, have you? I left because I didn't want to be part of that damn clan, much less lead it. Why do I have to be the head? Hinata was born first and she didn't betray the leaf. Surely you've been training her to be the head, and Hinata, why won't you spec up for yourself? Hanabi yelled to Hinata, who hadn't said a word. I know you want to be the head to change the way the clan does things, but here you are just standing there while he talks about replacing you. That was a brief silence, but Hinata started talking with a trembling voice. I don't care about being the head, I just want you to come back. Don't you see what you're doing is wrong? Do you have any idea how many people Naruto has hurt? I have a pretty good idea, but I don't care. Naruto doesn't go out to hurt people. People come to hurt him. He's just defending himself. It's not his fault that he has so much power that it makes it look like he was the one who attacked. Hanabi said. You call in joining the Akatsuki and hunting down Jinchuriki defending himself? Hinata said, wondered just how far Hanabi believed in Naruto. That's only because the Akatsuki ordered him to, and Naruto only joined the Akatsuki because if he didn't he would have no one to help him when the major villages came after him, but don't worry, that time has passed. You might not believe this, but we're on your side. Very soon Naruto will destroy the Akatsuki. That doesn't make it any better. Naruto will just become an even greater villain than the Akatsuki. Hinata said. You wrong. I can't say the world will be peaceful after Naruto wins, but I know once Naruto's in control he won't go and destroy everything. He won't destroy anything. We're going to live a peaceful life that will only be interrupted if some idiot decides they want to fight Naruto. Hanabi yelled. You're crazy. Hinata said. Maybe, but you are too if you think I'm going back with you. Hanabi said, forcing chakra to her hands. I had hoped it wouldn't have had to come to this, but I can see now that the only way to do this is by force. Hayashi said as he activated his Byakugan and got in his own fighting stance. These fights may be important to the people involved no matter what the reason, but they were minor encounters in this war. It would seem to anyone watching that the Akatsuki was absolute having their way with Konoha and Kumo, but the real fights were just beginning. A pain that looked more machine than human was blindsided by a fireball. His tough metal plates took most of the damage, but that was nothing more than a warm-up for Kakashi. He would make sure this piece of metal ended up in the trash. Another pain with long hair and was the one that had been interrogating the ninja for information stood across from a very pissed-looking Kushina. Were you looking for me? She yelled as several chains shot from her back and towards the enemy. A pain that had the ability to absorb chakra was finding its powers useless against Guy and his student Tenten. A pain that had summoned animals to assist the fight was finding itself being beaten back on all sides by Umbu and other powerful ninja, but the main problem was a feisty Suna girl who was using her giant fan to keep the pain in range of the other ninja. One of the most important pains who had the power to restore any of the other pains wasn't even given a chance to fight as Gaara crushed him in sand before he even knew what was happening. The final pain was dealing with a furious Hokage who, despite being in a hospital bed for a while and was far from fully healed, was using his teleportation to put up a pretty good fight. Universal pull, the pain said, but the jutsu only collected rock as Minato teleported out of the range. You'll have to do better than that. Minato said, blood dripping from his mouth despite not having been hit during the battle. Konan was fighting a battle she could not hope to win. Konan, I can't believe it's you. Why would you do this? Jiraiya said with a pained look his eye. We have to for peace. Konan yelled. How will this bring peace? Jiraiya said, motioning to the destruction that was all around them. You'd never understand. Konan yelled as she attacked her old master. The Akatsuki might be strong, but they didn't have the numbers needed for something like this. They had been speared to thin. The 5 major villages had powerful ninjas on their own plus the average ninja to back them up. As it was, the fight that had started with the Akatsuki decimating the other side was changing flow as the few Akatsuki members had to fight off an endless stream of ninja. They might have been fine if they had gotten more people and had planned for a little longer, but Naruto had forced them to rush. It wasn't just in Konoha that the Akatsuki was being beat back. In Kumo things weren't looking much better. The Kages had entered the fray. Kisame was clashing swords with a ninja who looked like a nerd with glasses, but he was one of the 7 swordsmen and as such couldn't be underestimated. It also was bad news when the Mei started assisting him. Not to mention the other 100 or so ninja that were surrounding him. Deidara's safe spot in the sky suddenly wasn't so safe as he barely avoided a winjutsu. You ran out on her last fight, I won't let you do that again. Anoki said. Shut it, you damn old man. I would have killed you if it wasn't for that brat calling me away. Deidara yelled. I see, so you take orders from kids now. Anoki said, giving Deidara a smile filled with spite. Back to the ground below, Tobi was hiding behind Naruto about ready to piss himself. But Naruto was smiling as he couldn't be happier with his luck. Your certainty came out earlier than expected. If you think I'll let you terrorize this village, why I just sit in the background like an extra. Then you are sorely mistaken. Plus I have to punish you for what you did to my fellow jinchuriki. Killer Bee said. With his 8 swords already out. He wasn't the only one there. Kumo ninja were behind him ready to give him support if necessary, although they would be worthless against Naruto. Don't you take us lightly. Naruto here is going to kick your ass. Toby shouted as he ran behind some rubble. Naruto sighed before he started speaking again. Toby might be an idiot, but he's right about one thing: you can't beat me. We'll just see about that. B said, moving so fast that he may have well teleported in front of Naruto. All 8 of his swords were aimed to pierce somewhere vital. They all broke before touching Naruto's skin. I guess we saw. Naruto said and punched B in the stomach, forcing him back a few feet. Naruto walked up to B so casually that it looked like he might have started skipping. B, it could be argued that even if all of the jinchuriki were still active, you'd be the strongest, but I'm absolute the worst person you could ever be put up against. Your power comes from your brute strength and lightning fast speed, but none of that matters to me. In order to beat me, you need unique jutsus or a unique skill. You have neither of those. Naruto almost started laughing. You should just give up. Then I'll show you I do have a unique jutsu. He said as red chakra emerged from his body and covered him like a suit of armor. His speed and strength had been even further increased as he shot off the ground towards Naruto, leaving a crater in the ground from where he jumped. Naruto did the exact same thing and the two clashed in midair. Blood was sent into the sky, but none of it was Naruto's. He crashed into the ground, causing the street they were on to implode. His cloak immediately vanished as the damage Naruto had done had just been that great. Naruto stood on the edge of the crater that his attack had caused, completely unharmed, looking down at a barely conscious jinchuriki. I thought I told you strength and speed mean nothing to me. All it does is inflict more damage to yourself. It's because you're so strong that this battle was so easy for me, you did all the work for me. And by the way, that unique skill isn't that unique. I can name at least 8 other people who could do it. B forced his broken body into a sitting position. His face was warped in anger and regret. He obviously wanted to fight, but his body wasn't listening to him, and what if it was? It wouldn't change anything. But slowly B's face changed into a sad smile. Who would have guessed that I would be taken down in one shot? B said with a dry laugh. Even if I was to go into my full beast mode, I doubt it would work, but even though I lost, I won't let you get your way. Naruto realized what was going on a second too late and wasn't able to stop B from taking one of his busted swords and stabbing himself through the heart, an instant death. And with B's death, not only went a beloved figure in Kumo, but the tailed beast that was inside him. The 8 tails would reform, but that could be years from now. The Akatsuki's plans had shaken to the core. The Kumo ninja that were there watched sadly as B's body fell to the ground. Naruto was pissed, but there was someone who was much more pissed than Naruto. So much so that he was shaking to his very core, and oddly enough it was Toby. Damn it, Toby said in a tone that wasn't his. That bastard ruined everything. Zesta, get out here. The voice that was no longer Toby's yelled. Zestu emerged from the ground, although it was only the white half. Who would have thought that he'd kill himself? Don't jinchuriki fight no matter what? I don't care about that. What the situation with the 9 tails? The 9 tails isn't in Konoha, and the way things are going now, Pain won't live to find out where she is. Zesta said in a mocking tone, like he was glad the plan was going to shit. Toby hissed as he spoke. Get your other half and return to monitor the leaf. At everyone on our side dies, then return to base. If not, continue as planned. And what are you going to do? Zestu asked. I'm going to finish us up here and gather up the Akatsuki members here. Toby said. I have to think of a new way to go about things now that the 8 tails ID dead. Zesta seemed content with that answer and phased back into the ground, but Naruto still had question. Who the hell are you, Toby? Toby turned around and Naruto could see a Sharingan eye. I am Madara Uchiha, the true leader of the Akatsuki. And just for the record, Naruto, if you ever try to kill me again or betray the Akatsuki like I know you were planning to, then I will wipe your sorry thoughts from your head along with the rest of your internal organs. I'm not nearly as forgiving as Pain. That was all Madara said before leaving. Big talk coming from someone who hasn't done anything besides sit in the shadows. Naruto said. Naruto wasn't the least bit afraid of Madara, but he would have to be dealt with. Naruto looked at B's body and to the ninja on the other side of the crater. They all looked terrified, but they all had too much pride to run away. They were expecting Naruto to come after them, but Naruto had different plans. True, Naruto would have liked to have the 8 and 9 tails before proceeding with his plan, but they weren't necessary, and since it looked unlikely that the 9 tails would be captured, that was no reason to put it off any longer. Naruto took a cup of water out of his Akatsuki cloak. Hanabi would have recognized it as the same one she had seen Naruto used to communicate with Suigetsu. Naruto dropped it and it shattered on the ground. The Kumo ninja watched in awe as Naruto turned away from them and ripped of his cloak. He wasn't wearing a shirt, but he walked to the nearest Kumo ninja corpse and took off his white flak jacket and put it on. Madara's threat had done nothing. Naruto had betrayed the Akatsuki. In a Konoha restaurant, Suigetsu was sitting at a table eating a bowl of yogurt. Across from him sat his partner. There was no one else there, which was to be expected as they were basically in the middle of a war zone. Don't you think you should be a little more cautious? Suigetsu's partner asked. Why, it's not like the Akatsuki is going to come looking for Naruko in here, and if any other ninja come in here to hide or whatnot, I'll just kill them. Suigetsu said, specking between mouthfuls of yogurt. But just as Suigetsu was about to take another bite, his body stiffened, then he smiled. He took the bowl of yogurt and downed the whole thing. Then he stood up and motioned for his partner to do the same. Naruto called, "We've finally gotten to the good part." They both walked out of the restaurant ready to complete their part of the plan. The ceiling was complete. Fu fell to the ground like a ragdoll. The Akatsuki looked at Naruto strangely before they stopped sending their thoughts and disappeared one by one. Eventually they all left and Naruto was left alone. The Akatsuki were probably shocked that Naruto hadn't done anything. Little did they know he had. Naruto jumped down next to Fu. "All right, get up," Naruto said, shaking her awake. Fu slowly opened her eyes and letting them focusing on Naruto. "How am I alive?" Fu said weakly. "I told you I wouldn't let you die," Naruto said, grabbing Fu and lifting her up to her feet. She might be a strong ninja, but she had been trapped for 3 days without food or water, and Naruto was sure it wasn't a very pleasant experience. "I know you said you would, but I thought you were just lying," Fu said, trying to stand up on her own without using Naruto as a support. "You need to stop comparing me to those idiots in Taki. I have way more class than them, plus I need more powerful people on my side," Naruto said. "I think you might be overestimating me. Even if I'm alive, I can feel that I'm not a jinchuriki anymore," Fu said, managing to stay on her feet and following Naruto out of the cave. "I know, it wouldn't be very convincing if the Akatsuki didn't get their tail beast, but you're still a good ninja even without you, little helper," Naruto said, sounding like tricking the Akatsuki had been a boring task. "So how did you save me?" Fu asked. "It wasn't that hard, although I'm sure if any of the other Akatsuki members had actually been in the room they would have noticed," Naruto said. "All I did was use my vector control to separate your regular chakra from the demonic and then only let the demonic chakra out of your body. But even if you did that, I still should have died," Fu said, shocked at how easy Naruto made that sound. "Well, I did control all your internal functions and adjusted them to stable levels. That was the hard part. Do you know how many things I had to keep track of? Blood flow, heartbeat, breathing, chakra flow, just to name some of the more important ones." "Thank you," Fu said, blushing a bit from hearing all Naruto had done for her. "No need, you'll repay me soon enough," Naruto said, looking up into the sky like he expected something to come down and greet him. "What do I need to do?" "I'll do anything," Fu said, ready to repay her savor, completely ignore that he was the one who had captured in the first place, but she would rather be with him anyways. "You won't have to do much, just help me with a plan." Naruto spent the rest of the day explaining what Fu and some guy named Suigetsu were going to do. Fu would never forget that. Naruto had taken her away from Taki, and while she thought the best way to go about things was to try and get the village to like her, she realized now that it would never have happened. She wouldn't deny it, she had probably fallen in love with Naruto and was eager for this all to be over so she could spend more time with him. Fu, however, was not a useless fangirl that would follow him like a lost puppy. In fact, Fu had some problems with this plan. Sure, Fu knew it would make him stronger, incredibly so, but a god. Fu thought Naruto might be a little full of himself, but then again Naruto hadn't really explained what would happen when all he got the parts he needed. When Fu had asked him, he just reposed with, "Once I have the tailed beast and what you two will be getting from the leaf, my vector control will ascend it to another level, a godly level." Fu didn't know how the tailed beasts would make Naruto's vector control any more power. Hell, Fu didn't know how his vector control could get any stronger. But that was only on the tailed beast end. Fu knew exactly how the item they were getting would help Naruto. "We're here," Suigetsu said, looking at a sewer grate. "Then let's get to work," Fu said with a lovely smile. On the other side of the village, metal clashed with sparks jumping from every impact. Mito was having problems getting close to Minima as her chains would keep pushing her away, and her long-range lighting jutsus didn't help since they would just charge Minima's chains. "Is this what you want, Mito, for us to be fighting? Just let me make it up to you." "Naruko's changed, but Naruto never will." "Shut up, you don't know anything," Mito yelled, blocking one of Minima's chains. "You can't deny it, if you stay with Naruto you'll end up as rotten and evil as he is," Minima said, focusing her energy to make her chains strike faster. "You're the rotten ones," Mito yelled, breaking through Minima's wall of chains and getting in close. Minim ducked down to avoid Mito's swords and hit her in the stomach. Her doing so caused Mito leaned over in pain and cut Minima on both her shoulders as her swords were brought down. Minima backed away to keep her arms from getting cut off. "Was it really that bad? Would you still rather take Naruto over us?" Minima yelled. "Why wouldn't I?" Mito yelled, her eyes starting to tear up, and Minima could see the little girl she was. The fact was, Mito was still a kid who should be going on C-rank missions with her friends, not in the middle of a battlefield fighting her sister. She had her childhood robbed from her, and as much as Minima would like to blame Naruto, she knew that she was just as at fault. "Damn it! It's the older sister's job to protect the younger one," Minima said, just loud enough for Mito to hear. "We shouldn't be doing this, we're family," Minima yelled, tears running down her own face. "Well, it's Naruto's job too. And he did it way better than you." Metal clashed once again in a fury of emotion. "He's not protecting you, he's using you to further his own crazy plan," Minima said, sweat dripping down her face and her shoulders rising up and down with each heavy breath. Mito wasn't in any better shape. They had both been running around a lot, and with the emotion running high, the mental strain was just as bad as the physical one. "You talk about protecting me. You talk about how we need to be a family. But you call him crazy. You call him a monster. Tell me, where does Naruto fit into this happy fantasy of yours? Isn't he family too?" Mito yelled. Minima was about to retort, but the words died in her mouth. Where did Naruto fit in? Sure, Minima had decided that Naruto was too evil to ever be accepted into the family, but he wouldn't just go away if Minima brought Mito back. Did Minima want him killed? In the heat of her anger she may have said yes, but now, no matter how evil Naruto was, Minima didn't want to visit his grave. But the only other option was to let him continue on and become a god, and if that happened, then who knows what kind of disaster he would bring. Naruto was evil, Minima had no doubt about that, but was it really his fault? He had been trapped in a cage with Orochimaru as his warden. Naruto may play it off like no big deal, but who knows what he went through. Maybe Naruto could step out of the darkness and into the light. He wouldn't be the first member of their family to do it. Minima looked at Mito. She obviously cared deeply about Naruto, and convincing her to come back to Konoha would be difficult, but Minima had to convince her. Not just because she thought it would be best for Mito, but because now she believed it would be best for Naruto. If he could be surrounded by family that truly wanted to set him right, then maybe something would change. Where does Naruto fit in? Minima said after a long period of silent thinking. Right beside us. Mito was taken back by Minima's complete reversal and crouched lower into her fighting position. You're lying, you want to see Naruto dead, and even if you did believe that, Naruto's already the brother I wanted, he doesn't need to change. I have no reason to come here when we already have everything we need. Now you're lying. Minima said with a low tone. Naruto isn't at all the brother you wanted. Minima took out a book and threw it at Mito. Surprisingly, Mito dropped one of her swords to catch it because that book was very important to her. It was the book that had all the drawings of what she thought Naruto would look and be like. She hadn't brought it with her when she left because she had been going to meet the real thing. You went to see a hero. A person who would save everyone no matter what, but most importantly, you wanted him to save you. But you didn't get that. Instead, you got someone who only cares for himself and his small group of allies. He doesn't believe in second chances, all it takes is for someone to get in his way. Then he has no problem with killing them. You don't understand. It's your fault for attacking him, he's the victim. He's nice when it's not a battle. No, you're the one who's wrong. Minima yelled, abandoning her chains and running towards Mito. What would happen if you all died here? Who would he be nice to then? And maybe people do attack him, but I'm sure you know that those attacks can't even be considered threats to Naruto. It's the same as them yelling that they're going to kill him, and yet when someone yells that at me, I don't go and kill them because I know they couldn't really do it. So why is Naruto? Minima was getting closer. Mito could see, but her mind had been completely shot. All she ever believed and thought about Naruto was coming into question. As such, Mito couldn't even dedicate 1% of her brain to putting up a defense. Mito thought Minima was going to hit her, but instead she hugged her. But even if all that's the case, we're a family and need to help each other. I can see that now thanks to you. So what do you say, do you want to help us pull Naruto out from the darkness? Mito didn't give a verbal response, her brain would not allow for such a thing, but she warped her arm around Minima's back to return the hug. The broken family was slowly picking up the pieces and putting it back together. A ninja who was not part of the normal Konoha force was patrolling the sewers. He was part of an organizing Noah's route under the leadership of Danzo, and yet none of the members of the organization were fighting the serious threat to the leaf. Instead, they had come down to the sewer, which was hiding one of Root's many bases. They were waiting it out to see what would happen after the flames were out. Danzo wanted the Hokage seat, and there was no better chance to take a grab at it than right after the battle. The ninja was patrolling to make sure no one would find out about them, at least until they were ready. Unfortunately, a group had already made their move. The Root ninja heard the sound of someone landing behind him, but before he could turn around, he was pushed into the sewer water. Normally he would have just surfaced and raised the alarm, but something was keeping him from swimming up. It felt like something was grabbing, but the only thing around him was water. Unable to break free of the mysterious power, the Root ninja drowned. Fu watched the ninja's body float back up, then pushed downstream. A moment later, Suigetsu's head popped above the waterline. And another one meets a watery grave. No one's caught on yet? Fu asked. The water is still undisturbed, they have no idea we're here. Suigetsu said with an easygoing tone. That's good. Fighting Danzo head-on would be a problem. Fu said, only knowing the man from what Naruto had told her. Yeah, but he has to unlock that arm of his before he can really stand up to us. A quick assassination will be the end of that odd fart. Suigetsu said as he started swimming. How do you know all this? Fu asked. Same way Naruto does. Danzo made all kinds of dark deals with Orochimaru. I only saw him a couple of times myself, and that was only as he was passing by, but the prisoners didn't have much to do but talk about what was going on, so information got spread around. Besides, I'm sure the Hokage's son got to meet him on a more personal level than I ever did. Suigetsu said as he stopped his swimming and disappeared back underwater. Anyways, let's get a move on, we've still got more ground to cover before we get to Danzo. Suigetsu's voice echoed off the walls, making it impossible to tell where he was in that mucky water. It gave off a very unnerving aura that made Suigetsu seem like a ghost. Fu was just glad he was on her side. She didn't know how she would deal with someone who could literally become part of the water. Hitomi was bleeding badly. Even with Itachi's injuries, he was still kicking her ass, but Hitomi was not disheartened yet because she had gotten hits in. They were not nearly as numerous or as damaging as the ones she had received, but they proved that Itachi wasn't even close to his full potential. Hitomi knew that with Itachi's current state, being aggressive was a much better strategy than waiting for Itachi to catch his breath. Hitomi charged in with her scythe, swinging it wildly, trying to attack from every angle, but she was cut off when Itachi kicked her in the stomach, pushing her back. But something strange happened. Itachi staggered. Hitomi, not willing to let this chance go to waste, did a diagonal swing that cut Itachi down his chest. Itachi took a few uneasy steps back as blood dripped to the floor. Then started coughing uncontrollably. He brought his hand to his mouth, and when he removed it, there was a fresh coat of blood on it. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Hitomi asked, having problems believing that Itachi was in this bad a state. Itachi gave a dry smile with blood running down the side of his mouth. "You might find this hard to believe, but I'm dying." "You're right, I don't believe that. You're telling me that one of the strongest ninja in the Leaf is on their deathbed?" Hitomi yelled. "You can believe what you want, but it's the truth. I don't have much time left. I was supposed to be resting to get my strength back up. But since you forced me into this fight, I can feel my body dying out on me, and even if you hadn't attacked me, I would have never been able to stay in this ninja life for much longer. So congratulations, you got your revenge. Even if you lose this fight, the odds are I won't make it to see the end of the day," Itachi said with a kind of final peace. "So is that it after everything you've done? All the people you've hurt, you just going to fade away without any last hurrah?" Hitomi said. She didn't know why, but the knowledge that Itachi was going to die no matter what made her angry. It was like her own vengeance was being taken away from her. What about all the other Uchiha kids? How would they feel knowing that the man who murdered their family just suddenly died? Would they feel satisfied? Hitomi couldn't imagine they would. "If you're going to die anyways, then let me kill you. At least that way I can feel like you paid for your crimes." "I can't do that," Itachi said. "Revenge does nothing but drag people into the abyss. If I let you kill me, then Sasuke will swear his revenge against you and the cycle will start all over again. You say I need to pay for the terrible things I've done, yet you follow someone who is just like me. I did what I did to protect the village. Naruto did what he did to protect himself. We've both made orphans and caused people to cry and swear their vengeance against us. Tell me, do you think the children of the ninja Naruto killed, regardless of who started the fight, should have the right to kill Naruto?" Hitomi was shanking. She wanted to say of course not, it was their parents' fault for attacking Naruto, but that would mean destroying the very base of why she was attacking Itachi. It was after all her parents who had started the fight against the Leaf. In the end, Hitomi couldn't say anything and charged Itachi for one last attempt at revenge. And Itachi stood there with a dry smile on his face awaiting the end. Hitomi's side was embedded in Itachi's side and had priced a lung. He would soon die. Itachi knew this, but he was content. The cycle of revenge that had cursed the Uchiha for a long time had been broken, at least for now. Sasuke would not seek revenge on Itachi's killer because she was laid out on the street with a kunai in her stomach. She was not breathing. Itachi turned back to his house and started walking. There was no reason for it, but he wanted to die in his own home. He made it to the front door, a trail of blood behind him. Right as he opened the door, he fell inside with his final breath. His upper half laid inside the threshold of his property while his bottom half laid outside. Maybe Hitomi would find satisfaction that she had denied Itachi his final wish, no matter how small. Danzo, an old man covered in bandages, was surrounded by root ninja that were ready to give their lives to protect him. Suigetsu was watching from the water. If only Danzo was a little bit closer, then one swing with his sword would end it. But as things stood right now, Suigetsu had no way of getting to Danzo without alerting every ninja there. Fu on the other hand was right above Danzo's head and no one was noticing. She could suppress her chakra signature completely. To most people this would be impossible, but Fu had to learn to suppress her demonic chakra, and when it was suddenly taken away, suppressing her regular chakra was an easy task. Besides that, it was amazing just how little people forgot to look up. Yet even with Fu in the perfect position to assassinate Danzo, she couldn't, because once she did, those rude ninja would kill her, and Fu wasn't going to make this a suicide mission. So it was up to Suigetsu to lure them away. Suigetsu thought about it for a little bit, but couldn't think of anything, so he would just do what he did best. If Fu couldn't take on all the root ninja alone, then they would just do it together. Suigetsu jumped out of the water, slicing the nearest ninja in half. All attention was on Suigetsu, and in that moment Fu, who was not happy about the plan Suigetsu chose, dropped down and stabbed a water blade through Danzo's heart. The root ninja quickly fought back despite their leader having been killed, but in the end the shock of losing their boss caused them to become disorganized and ended in their deaths. Suigetsu tossed all the bodies into the water as Fu dressed the wounds she acquired from the battle. "I can't believe you got injured. Those guys were jokes once Danzo was killed." Speaking about Danzo, did you see the look on his face? He didn't even have to think about unlocking his arm. "We got luckily. If he had sensed we were coming, he would have crushed us, and by the way, you got injured just as much as I did, but your stupid body doesn't show the damage," Fu said. "Yeah, whatever, but now that everyone's dead, we can search for those documents that Naruto wants," Suigetsu said, heading as he started opening random desks and cabinets that were down here. "I guess you're right, we need to get that information, but we don't even know if Danzo has it or if it even exists in the first place," Fu said. "Trust me, it exists, and Danzo will defiantly have it. After all, the guy is obsessed with the Sharingan. There's no way he didn't do research into its abilities," Suigetsu said, tossing a sack of paper to the side. "Then I guess we better find," Fu said as she started looking around, thinking about how happy it would make Naruto if she hand-delivered the information. Once he knew the concept behind the Sharingan's power, he would be able to reflect it, and then he wouldn't have to worry about some pesky Uchiha taking his throne. And if by will alone Fu found it, Danzo's research into the Sharingan. A quick skim showed that it was exactly what Naruto needed to plug the hole in his defense. Hanabi kept her distance since her father's gentle fist technique was miles ahead of hers. But Hayashi wouldn't be head of the Hyuga clan if something that simple would stop him. He shot wind out of his palms. The area of effect was wide and it was tearing up the ground, so Hanabi was forced to dodge to the side. That was all the time it took for Hayashi to close the distance. Hanabi quickly spun around, creating a dome of chakra to push Hayashi back. If he was able to close even one of Hanabi's major chakra points, the fight would be over. Hanabi dome didn't stop Hayashi for long. He created his own dome and brought it against Hanabi's. The two chakras grinded against each other. However, within a matter of seconds it was clear who had the upper hand. Hanabi's dome burst as she flew backwards. Hayashi stopped spinning and stood there waiting for Hanabi to get up. Hanabi was pissed as she stood up and wiped the blood that was dripping from her chin. It was clear by the way her father was acting that he didn't see this as an actually fight, he was treating it more as a training exercise. That would also explain why Hinata was standing off to the sidelines not doing anything. And as if to prove her point, Hayashi started talking. "You've improved. I'm glad to see that your absence from the leaf hasn't been a complete waste." Hanabi growled as she did a few hand signs and a wave of water escaped from her mouth. Hayashi didn't bat an eye as he ran straight through the torrent. It looked like the water had engulfed him, but a little later he popped back at the other side with no sign of the water having affected him, with the expectation of being soaked. Hanabi tried to do another set of hand signs, but Hayashi was too close. Hanabi ended up in the situation she had wanted to avoid the most, a taijutsu battle. Hayashi attacks were lightning fast and had the precision of a surgeon. Hanabi could not keep up. She tried to fall back, but this only caused Hayashi to push his advantage. He struck several of Hanabi's chakra points before she was finally able to get away. None of them were major, and as long as Hanabi had use of her arms she could unblock them once she had an opportunity to do so, but they disrupted her chakra network nonetheless. Hanabi really had to think of a way to beat her father. She still had the Nuabari, but with Hayashi Byakugan, that was no angle she could strike from that he wouldn't see. Actually, there was one place, but there was no way her father would be careless enough to let Hanabi take advantage of it. Yet it was her only hope, so she had to try it. Hanabi threw the Nuabari at Hayashi and he dodged to the side no problem. Hanabi pulled at the string to have the sword return, but she adjusted it so it was in Hayashi blind stop. It got closer and closer to Hayashi's head and Hanabi dared to hope it would work, but just as it was about to hit, Hayashi brought his arm behind his head and grabbed it. "Did you really think that would work?" Hayashi said, sounding disappointed. "No, but I think this will." Hanabi yelled as she came charging at him. Hayashi was unprepared and he was still holding the Nuabari, so he only used one hand to attack Hanabi. He closed off a lot of her chakra points, but Hanabi was still able to crash into him with her entire weight, while not a lot was still able to knock him to the ground. Hayashi barely had enough time to move the Nuabari he was holding so it wouldn't skewer him. Hanabi, however, now had an advantage and was desperate to press it. Hanabi headbutted Hayashi, causing blood to drip from both their foreheads. Hayashi was no use to this kind of fight and got lightheaded from the attack. His grip on the sword loosened and Hanabi was quick to pick it up and place it right above Hayashi's neck. "You lose," Hanabi said. "Oh really? Because I'm still breathing, and if you think you can get away while I'm still able to move, then maybe Hinata really should be clan head," Hayashi said, looking at Hanabi's form. She was shaking so badly that she couldn't keep her weapon steady. It was all because her chakra network was shot thanks to all the chakra points Hayashi had closed. Hanabi needed to get away and unblock them, but in order to guarantee that time, Hayashi would have to be died. "You can't do it, can you?" Hayashi said with an emotionless look. "You might have been trained by someone who could kill his family without a care, but you can't do it." Hayashi slowly brought his arm up and grabbed the sword. Hanabi knew that if he pushed it away it would all be over. She had to make a choice, but could she really kill her father? Naruto or her father, a subordinate to the strongest ninja in the world or the head of the most prestigious clan in the world, love or blood? A choice had to be made, and in the end it was. Madara ran through Kumo with the intent of gather up the Akatsuki, but that plan would be put on hold when a boulder the size of a building landed on him. Madara's head poked out of the rock to see a man with an eerie grin approaching. "I see you didn't heed my warning." "Warning?" Naruto said, coming to a stop in front of Madara. "I didn't take that as a warning, I took it as a challenge." "Are you really prepared to take me on?" Madara said, phasing completely out of the rock. Naruto tilted his head to the side, cracking his neck. "An ancient artifact who lost to the first Hokage when he was still in his prime. I think I'll be just fine." "You're also making an enemy of the Akatsuki," Madara said, as if to give Naruto one last chance, but both knew that there was not going back. "The Akatsuki," Naruto laughed, "is done. They're getting destroyed in the leaf, and Kumo has already pushed Kisame and Deidara back if they're not dead already. Besides, even if you somehow scrounge up the remains, B's dead. The Akatsuki has lost its goal. Its reason to exist." Then the fight began. Both sides jumped at each other, bringing their fists together, but instead of an explosion of power, Naruto harmlessly passed through Madara. "You know, that really pisses me off," Naruto said, trying to mess with Madara's vectors, but oddly enough he couldn't find any. "This is no different from your reflection, they both keep us from being hit," Madara said. "So you're saying neither of us can cause damage to the other? What a boring battle this will turn out to be," Naruto said. "You're the one who started it," Madara said. "But I didn't say that, I only said they served the same purpose." Madara threw a kunai and it stuck into Naruto's side, bypassing his reflection. Naruto felt the pain but didn't look at all worried that his reflection had been broken. He screwed with his own chakra and the kunai disappeared. "You know, if you want to trick me with a genjutsu, you're going to have to be more realistic. Like, show me a giant monster that breathes fire and talks like a 4-year-old crushing Kumo." The fight continued, and just like Naruto predicted, the fight was painfully boring. All the attacks Naruto tried to do passed right through Madara, and Madara wouldn't even attack because he would get a broken wrist if he tried. All Naruto could think to do was constantly attack Madara, and maybe he would just run out of chakra using that technique, or maybe the technique itself had some sort of restriction. It didn't look like it was doing anything, but Naruto noticed that the closer that they got to the 5-minute mark, the more nervous Madara was becoming and the more he tried to get away from Naruto. "What's the problem, you getting scared?" Madara didn't say anything but tried even harder to get away. "You better do something or you're going to die." Madara couldn't get away, so he did the only thing he could. Naruto suddenly found his body getting pulled forward into Madara's eye. It wasn't long before Naruto's entire body was sucked in by the unknown vector. Naruto dropped into a strange place that was made up entirely of block and had purple tint. Madara was standing on a block that was elevated higher than the one he was on. "Is this your big plan?" Naruto said, spreading his arms. "Do you think that if we fight here that anything will change?" Madara looked down on Naruto and spoke in a very superior voice. "Of course not, but I can just leave you here until you starve. But maybe I'll let you out if you swear allegiance to me." Madara expected Naruto to have a look of pure horror, being forced to admit he lost, but that's not what he got. Instead, Naruto looked annoyed. "Is that it? Is that all you've got? Do you think you're so powerful that you can fight off starvation?" Madara asked, mad that he had not gotten the reaction he wanted. Naruto's face warped from an annoyed look to a disappointed look. "To think I thought I was going to be able to fight someone who was able to face off against the god of shinobi. That would have proven I was the strongest ninja alive, but instead I got you a sad access for an imposture." Madara was taken back by Naruto's word. "What are you talking about? You've lost and now you're trying to say I'm not who I say I am. If you wanna be Madara, that's fine, I don't really care anymore, but you're way too weak and stupid. Madara's not a one-trick pony, yet all you were able to do was avoid my attacks, and when that didn't work you sent me here. Even Minato was able to hurt me, but all you can do is lock me in a cell and run away. But I've got news for you, putting me in here was the worst mistake you've ever made, and it's something the real Madara would never do," Naruto said, pointing his arm at the man in the mask. "I know how you've been phasing through everything. You've been sending your body or part of it into this dimension. So what if you figure it out, you're still trapped in here?" Madara said, about ready to leave, but Naruto's laugh stopped him. "If this is the best you can do, then you've got a serious problem on your hands. You're talking to the master of vectors. Anything that has mass and direction is under my control. And you better not think I'm limited to the X, Y, and Z axis of 3D space. You see, I couldn't hit you because I didn't understand how it worked, but now that I know you're just changing dimension, then it becomes simple. All I have to do is take a fourth axis between this dimension and ours into account." Madara watched as the whole dimension started to shift and blur until it changed back to the Kumo. Madara was shocked. He couldn't believe that Naruto had just broken himself out of an inescapable prison. "You know, I guess fighting you wasn't a complete waste, because now that I've been in both dimensions I can freely move between them," Naruto said, walking closer to Madara, and to Madara's horror he took a step back in fear. "Although I don't know if I'll ever have a reason to change, since I can't send only parts of my body like you can, but it can't hurt to have it." Naruto then speeded towards Madara. Madara didn't know what to do, so he did what he always did and sent part of his body to the other dimension. But Naruto hit him clear on and sent him tumbling back. "I told you that if you didn't come up with something new that you would have a serious problem," Naruto yelled, sounding mad that Madara didn't have a different plan. "I have that fourth axis now. Even if you send your body to the other dimension I can bring back by reversing the vectors you're trying to use." Madara launched a devastating fire jutsu at Naruto, but it just came back and phased through Madara. You could hear Naruto sigh. "I guess it really is over. You don't have any tricks left. What a disappointment." Naruto brought his hand up and seemed to imagine it warped around Madara's mask. "Of course I can only control vectors I touch, so cyclones and rocks will still phase through you. But that's okay, reversing you blood flow will be enough. I won't check to see who you really are after you're dead if you're worried about that. If I did, it would break the illusion. At least this way I can." Pretend that fought with Madara, he just happened to get so much weaker with age. With that said, Naruto lunged at the man in the mask and killed him. Nagato watched Minato approach him. So you're the one who was controlling the pains? Minato said with a hateful look in his eye. I think it hardly matters what part one played in the invasion. All that you care about it that I played a part, so just go ahead and kill me. I know you want to. Nagato said, having given up after watching all his pains and Konan die. Don't worry, I will, but first I need to ask you something. Where is my son? Minato said with a hint of a hiss. So you still care about him even after he almost killed you? Nagato said. Of course I do. I'm still his father, and even if he's put in a cell for his crimes, you bet it will be a cell in the leaf far anyway from anyone who would kill him out of anger. Minato yelled. How naive, there are plenty of people in the leaf who want him died, and aren't you being a little hypocritical after all? Isn't the reason you're here to kill me is because of your anger? Nagato said, not trying to avoid his fate, just simply stating the facts. You're not my son. And he is not the son of anyone else, so don't be surprised when they offer up the same kind of bloodshed that you've offering me. Where is my son? Who knows? He was sent to Kumo, but if Kumo crushed the Akatsuki just like the leaf did here, then he could be long gone or dead. Nagato said, and not long after a kunai went through his brain. Suigetsu and Fu could only see the leaf village on the horizon now. Looks like we did it. Suigetsu said, smirking with pleasure. We got what we came here for. Now none if the Uchiha's special techniques will be a threat to Naruto. Although now that Itachi's dead, is there really any Uchiha left that could have posed a threat to Naruto? Fu asked. It's still good to have it. But I'm a little sad about the brats, look like none of them will be able to join us. Suigetsu said, although he didn't seem too sad about that fact. Just as they were about to head off, they heard a bush rustle and prepared to attack. There's still one brat who's willing to come along, Hanabi said as she shambled onto the road. Her face was covered in blood, but only a little bit if it was hers. She had made her choice and she had choosing Naruto. Let's get going, I want to wash this filth off. Oh, look who's giving orders now. Suigetsu said in good fun as Hanabi walked by him. Suigetsu, who is that? Fu whispered into his ear. She had never heard Suigetsu or Naruto talk about the brats until now. She's your competition, Suigetsu said with a smile, running off to meet Hanabi. Fu blushed heavily before running off to catch the both of them. It was silent in Kumo. All the ninja were gathered around a person who looked more like a shark. He wasn't breathing and his sword laid next to him without a master. The explosions had also stopped. The Kumo nin were sure that Deidara was dead somewhere if he hadn't been crushed to the particle level. Once they realized this fact, they jumped in joy. We've won! Someone yelled. There were cheers and happiness all around. Even Mei seemed to be enjoying herself, but then something struck next the Kisame's body, kicking up a cloud of dust. The Kumonin stopped their party and aimed all their weapons at the cloud. Once it settled, they could see person with red eyes bending over to pick up Kisame's sword. Relax, the man said as if he was talking to a group of rowdy children. I'm just here because I promised I'd get Suigetsu this sword. I have no reason to fight you. Like hell you don't. You're one of the people that invaded our village. Someone yelled. A hail of jutsus and weapons assaulted the man, once again kicking up a cloud of dust. But none of them hit and none of they were reflected. Instead, above the cloud the man was hovering with 4 cyclones keeping him in the air and the sword in his hand. I have no time for you today, the man said. Because I have very important business to take care of, and once it's complete I will have elevated to a new plane. The man then flew away so fast that some would question if he had never really been there and it had just been a genjutsu. Mito sat in a cell, her weapons taken and a chakra seal on her body. Even if she had given up willingly, she was still an enemy and wouldn't allow to walk around the village freely. She had been brought to this prison after the battle had ended and hadn't seen any of her family members since, but Mito doubted that would last long. Why the gloomy look? The person who shared the cell next to her said. Mito chose to ignore him. She had nothing to say to Orochimaru's assistant. Is it because you betrayed Naruto after all he did for you, or is it because your friend Hitomi is dead? Kabuto continued. Mito didn't really care how Kabuto knew about Hitomi's death, it didn't matter, all he was trying to do was get under her skin. She was mourning her friend's death, but Kabuto had gotten it right the first time. She had betrayed Naruto. That thought would not leave her mind. She wasn't sure if what she did was right anymore. Even if Naruto's was defeated and brought back to the Leaf, the other villages would certainly call for his execution. Mito supposed they would call for hers too, but Minato probably had enough political power to stop that. After all, the only really destructions thing she did to the major villages was captured Iwa's jinchuriki, but that could be blamed on Deidara. But what if Naruto wasn't defeated? Would he come back and kill her for her betrayal? Mito wanted to say they had gone through too much for Naruto to kill her just like that, but she couldn't deny that Naruto didn't have much mercy for his enemies. The more Mito thought about it, more she realized that she may have screwed up big time. No matter what, it seemed that the happy family Minima described was never going to happen. Mito had been blinded by those false images. In the end, Mito was still just a kid who gave into her emotions over logic. But there was no going back now. Mito spent a couple more hours in her cell just thinking about what would have happened had she stayed with Naruto, but her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps approaching her cell. Mito was afraid to look up, knowing it had to be one of the members of her family. When she finally did look at who had come to visit, she was shocked to see it was Naruko. Mito was about to say something, but Naruko dropped to her knees and put her head to the floor. Mito, I'm sorry. Naruko said, tears leaking into the floor. I'm sorry for being a terrible sister. I'm sorry for not being strong enough to bring Naruto back. I'm sorry for not being here when you were fighting Minima. I'm sorry for everything. Mito didn't know what to say. She never thought she'd see the day when Naruko would apologize to her. She knew that Naruko had changed from what Minima had told her, but she never expected it to be this much. You don't have to apologize. Mito said. But I do. Naruko said, standing up. I know you love Naruto more than you love anyone else in our family, yet you choose us over if. So that's why I'll promise to bring him back and make sure you and him get to live a normal life. I'll get that happy ending. Mito couldn't believe it. The look in her sister's eyes was so full of hope and determination. It was clear that her eyes could only see the world becoming a better place. It was so different from Naruto's, whose eyes had the look detachment and darkness. His eyes saw a world that was filled with violence and stupidity and believed that only a god could change its course. Which one of them saw the right world and which one was dead wrong? Mito believed that Naruto's version was more realistic, but Naruko made that unrealistic world seem so close, and because of that she started giggling. Naruko, you even more of a child than I am, but maybe, just maybe, I'll believe what you say. Naruko gave Mito a smile, a real smile, not one of those plotting smiles that Mito had seen during her childhood. I guess I am a child. Naruko said. But the good thing about being a child is you can keep moving forward without thinking about the consequences. Conniving the Kages to let Naruto walk seems impossible. Mito said. That's okay, we'll just go step by step and cross that bridge once we get there. First we have to defeat Naruto. Naruko said, still holding her smile. The odds of that happening aren't high either, and if he becomes a god it might drop to 0. I've gotten a gift from Jiraiya and the toads that just might work. Just might isn't going to cut it. You'll still lose if you go and fight Naruto with the odds you have now. Then do you have anything that could raise those odds? Naruko asked, dropping her smile to look at Mito with a pleading face. Mito didn't know if she could help. She didn't even know if she'd help, but just this once she would put her faith in Naruko over Naruto. People would probably call her an idiot for relying on the sister that not too long ago she had hated, but Mito too wanted Naruto to live a normal life, and this might be the only way to do it. I'm not sure if it will have all the answers, but in my mind there is an image of a notebook that Orochimaru wrote about a certain boy. It was closed before I could read it, but if someone could go into my head and pauses that image, then just maybe we can raise our odds. I'll go tell Tusan right away to get Inoichi on it. Naruko said, walking out of the prison. Oh, and Mito, thank you. Mito didn't know why, but she felt pride in the fact she was helping her sister. It was strange she should feel horrible for betraying Naruto like this, but for some reason it felt like she was helping Naruto by doing this, although only time would tell if she was really working to make her family whole again. You're really putting a lot of trust in Naruko and that notebook, Kabuto said. What happens when you have to watch Naruto walk up to an execution platform knowing it's partially your fault? Kabuto, I know the odds of that happening are way more likely than us being a happy family, but I'm just a kid, so I can only imagine a happy ending. Mito said, for the first time truly believing it. Then I'll enjoy seeing that childish fantasy being ripped from your mind, Kabuto said. Naruto was floating around his new dimension. Technically it wasn't his dimension, but since no one else that he knew of could access it, Naruto was pretty certain he could lay claim to it. He was only in this dimension because he had wanted to know if it could serve any purpose for him besides storage. That, and he was still waiting for his team to arrive at the meet-up point. Sadly, both those things had yet to happen. On the dimension side, Naruto had learned a few things, but none of them were practically useful. For one, the vectors here were very simple, which was why he was floating around so carelessly. It was like swimming through water. Although there was nothing in this dimension that Naruto couldn't do in his dimension, so that was a bust. Their other thing that Naruto found was that the two dimensions shared the same time. It was strange. Naruto would have assumed that these two incredibly different dimensions would exist in different time, but no, if Naruto stayed in here for an hour would pass in the other dimension as well. This didn't have any use to Naruto, it was just interesting. The one thing that may have been helpful was the fact that this dimension was a lot more condensed. This meant that talking in step in this dimension would be a couple miles in the other dimension, but alas, while good on paper as a teleportation system, in real life it would be incredibly dangerous to use. The fact was that Naruto had no idea where he would be placed when he warped back. He could put himself in a rock or a tree. The Madara imposter must have been able to use his Sharingan somehow to make sure this didn't happen. So with all Naruto had learned, this dimension was no more use to him than a convenient storage. Naruto floated to the spot he knew he had come in at and wrapped himself back to the meeting place, and to his surprise, Fu, Hanabi, and Suigetsu were already there. The bad news was that Naruto appeared right where Suigetsu was standing. Suigetsu exploded into a puddle of water. Another inconvenience with swapping dimensions. If that had been anyone else, they would have died, and who knew what could have happened to Naruto. What the hell? Suigetsu yelled as he reformed his body. Naruto gave him a quick insincere apologize before asking if they had gotten what he asked for. Fu nodded her head and pulled out a scroll, handing to Naruto. He gave it a quick skim to make sure it was what he wanted. Naruto smiled when he confirmed it was. This is great, you three can take a break, I'm going to read this in more detail before we move on. Naruto walked a little ways to find a good reading spot. Are you saying we just have to wait for you? Suigetsu yelled. Yes, was Naruto's simple reply as he threw a very large sword on the ground. Just take this and stop your bitching. Suigetsu stomped his feet on the ground and walked off, mumbling, but not before picking up the sword. Fu and Hanabi had basically been left alone, and it was awkward to say the least. They both knew about the other's feeling for Naruto. Hanabi was pissed that Naruto had let Fu onto the team. Before, she had no one that could steal Naruto away from her, but now she had real competition, and as much as Hanabi hated to admit it, Fu had better assets than she did. The only thing Hanabi really had an advantage over Fu in was time. She had known Naruto for longer and had more experience with what Naruto liked and didn't like, which was not easy to figure out given Naruto's general apathetic attitude towards most things. So for about an hour, Fu and Hanabi shot glares at each other until Naruto finally finished reading and walked over to them. Go work, Fu, this is exactly what I needed, all the Sharingan powers have been revealed to me. Naruto said, patting Fu on the shoulder, earning a blush from her and an irritated look from Hanabi. Where's Hitomi and Mito? Naruto asked, just now noticing their absence, having been too focused on getting the information about the Sharingan. Well, you see, Hanabi started to say. Hitomi died fighting Itachi and Mito went back to her family. I see. I had heard that Itachi had died on my way here. I'm sure Hitomi can be happy knowing that she got her revenge. Naruto said, turning his head to look for Suigetsu. You're not going to say anything about Mito? Hanabi asked. Why should I? Mito made her choice. If she believes she can be happier in the leaf, then who am I to stop her? As far as I'm concerned, she can do whatever she wants. She just needs to know that if she decides to attack me, then I will show her no mercy, Naruto said, his voice getting darker towards the end. Besides, it's not like she had any important information on me, so there's nothing to worry about. Anyways, let's get going. We still have a ways to go before we get to that damn statue. Fu and Hanabi quickly nodded, following Naruto. A female ninja was running to the Hokage's office with what could be called the most important information on Naruto, thanks to Mito. She slammed open the doors to Minato's office, forgetting to knock, and started talking. Hokage, we finished looking through Mito's memories and we hit a gold mine. We've figured out Naruto's weakness. Then for the first time the ninja actually looked inside the room, and when she did she almost pissed herself. Inside were all 5 of the Kages along with seriously powerful ninja acting as their guards. Minato just gave her a smile. Thank you, can you please set it down in front of me? Minato said. The terrified female ninja waddled over to the table and set the file down before running out the door as fast as she could. What do you know, we were just talking about what to do about Naruto and in comes some very useful information. Said. Why don't you open it and share with the class? Minato sighed. He knew he would never had been able to avoid telling them about this, but he at least wanted to read it himself beforehand. He opened the file and started reading. It said, Dear Hokage, after going through Mito's mind we have found a notebook she had once looked at belonging to Orochimaru. Although she did not have enough time to read it herself, her mind still had an image of the event. This notebook has provided indispensable information, so instead of paraphrasing I'm going to write down exactly what was in the book on this file. Test subject 001, aka Naruto, has just completed his first test. So far nothing impressive, he only merely threw a rock at high speeds to kill his opponent. I am however hopeful for the future. All the data has suggested that the operation worked perfectly. 001 has complete control over any vectors that comes into contact with his chakra. Even if he doesn't know how to properly use it yet. 001 has progressed better than I had hoped. His mind has finally caught up with his chakra and he now has complete control over vectors. He has just mastered the vectors of lightning, which has given him a defense against all 5 of the chakra natures. 001 has become a little uncooperative lately. He has demanded I bring him books on just about everything or he will stop participating in my test. While I could just deny him his request and force him to participate, it could greatly skew the data, as he would most likely just sit there letting his reflection do all the work and not come up with new ways to use his vectors. So I will grant his request. After all, gaining more knowledge could only make him more powerful. 001 has read almost every book in my library, everything from basic jutsus to the history of IWA. While I expected him to try out some of the non-vector jutsu he must have learned from those books in the tests, he has yet to do so. I wonder why. 001 has become even cockier these past few weeks. He has demanded that I tell him who his real family is. I realize now that giving him those books was a mistake. It's not the books themselves that are the problem, it's that I gave them to him. Naruto certainly is intelligent, after all he has to be to manage his vector control. He has been testing the waters for a while now, seeing how much he could get away with. He was figuring out how important he was to me, and the unfortunate truth is he figure out the answer is very important. As much as don't want to do it in order to keep the tests on schedule, I will have to tell him. I could lie to him, but if he were to ever find out the truth it could stop the test indefinitely, so I will just have to see how it plays out. 001 had a very interesting response to the knowledge of his family. While he did seem like he would like to be with them, he did not show any signs of anger at being taken from them. The tests have gone on smoothly with no change to 001 behavior. If I were to mentally evaluate him, I'd say he has just accepted what happened to him, so while I believe he really wants to get back to his family, he is patient and will not act out on his desire to see them. I do have a countermeasure if 001 ever does try to escape. It has to do with a ring on his wrist. It takes advantage of a certain defect I implanted into the vector control formula. It works by using his own chakra against him. This works because I made sure 001's vector control wasn't precise enough to notice the difference in individual chakra. What happens is the ring has some of 001's chakra stored in it, and when it's turned on, it delivers this straight to 001. Now, why would this be a problem? For normal people, this wouldn't be an issue. Worth discussing, yet for 001 it's a crippling weakness. Normally when something comes into contact with 001's chakra, it briefly touches it before 001's default setting determines it's a foreign object and reflects it. But when 001's own chakra is shot at him, there's a problem. 001's reflection has determined that something has attempted to breach it, but what tried to breach it is exactly the same as it, so what's it supposed to do? A paradox has occurred. 001's chakra has just been told to reflect 001's chakra. If 001's vector control was more precise, it could differentiate the chakra that had been shot at him and the chakra that is a part of him, but that doesn't happen. Instead, his chakra reflects itself, dispersing the chakra that made up his reflection in the first place, leaving him defenseless. And if his chakra is continuously being shot at him, then he will be unable to bring chakra to the outside of his body to control vectors. Not to mention that he loses a great deal chakra every time his reflection is dispersed. This is my countermeasure, easy to pull off but almost impossible for someone to figure out on their own. I've made a mistake. 001 escaped when the Akatsuki attacked. He should not have been able to, but I've miscalculated the growth of 001's chakra. The ring was set to replace the chakra it had stored by absorbing chakra from 001 after it shot chakra at him should he attempted to control vectors. That was my mistake. The ring would only refill once it shot, but since 001 realized a long time ago that trying to use his vectors while the ring was on was worthless, he stopped doing it. This caused the same chakra to sit in the ring for a long time. 001 is still a kid, so as he grows his chakra changes slightly as his chakra coils make more connections, something I didn't take into account. Over time the chakra inside 001 and the chakra inside the ring became different enough to be considered different chakra. This is quite a loss, but I'm sure that I can salvage it. The Kages sat in silence after Minato finished reading. They were all thinking about what to do with this information. 4 out of 5 were thinking how they could kill Naruto with it. After almost 3 minutes of being in a noiseless place, Inoki broke the silence. So when do we head out? What do you mean we? We still haven't disused anything, and he's my son, so I don't really think you busy Kages need to be involved. Minato said. I wouldn't worry about that. I'm sure all of us would be willing to clear our schedule to help you catch and execute this criminal. Said. Or don't you remember that the alliance was created to take down the Akatsuki, and now there's only one member left? Minato bit his lip. There was no way he could bar them from hunting Naruto. The only thing he could do was supply his own ninja to at least try and get Naruto alive. I have a question. Gaara said, breaking Minato's thoughts. How do we know that doing this will actually work? This is Orochimaru we're talking about here. I wouldn't be surprised if this was all some big lie. If chakra has that much of a difference like Orochimaru says it does, then why is Naruto able to reflect everyone's chakra? Shouldn't he have to find the vectors for each slight change in everyone's chakra before he could reflect it? Not necessarily, Mei said, looking at her fingernails. Think of chakra as water. Water isn't exactly the same. There is salt water and pure water. Some water has more iron, more calcium, more chloride than other water. There are thousands of different kinds of water if you think of it like that. Yet for anyone using a water jutsu it doesn't matter. It must be the same way for Naruto. The changes from one person's chakra to the next are so slight it might as well be the same. That makes sense, but how would we even get a hold of Naruto's chakra? A asked. That's easy, Inoki said. any chakra-absorbing technique should work. Even if Naruto reflects it, there would still be a brief moment where it made contact with his chakra. It would only absorb a minuscule amount, but according to Orochimaru that should be enough. So we're all in agreement. We will use this found knowledge to take down the final member of the Akatsuki. Said, looking at Minato with a satisfied look. And thus the plan to take down Naruto were underway. Almost immediately after the decision was made, Naruto location was discovered. A high-class missing nin might be able to wander around undetected from their home village, but when all 5 major villages had made it their primary objective to hunt you down, there was no escape. 2 days later, the largest single task force was created. It didn't break the record by just a little but either. In terms of power and numbers, most people would think of it as an army than a task force. All 5 Kages would be present along with various other highly skilled ninja. Among them was the entire Namake's family minus Mito, and obviously Naruto, the 2 remaining Sannin, one of the 7 swordsmen, Temari, along with 200 average ninja. This was being put together to take down a group of 4 people, yet no one saw this as overkill. That's just how big a threat Naruto was. The task force moved out planning to intercept Naruto and his group, if the calculations of Naruto's route was correct, by sunrise the next day. The earth seemed to shake as they ran. Naruto heard them long before he saw them. It sounded like a herd of buffalo charging at him. It looks like we've got company and a lot of it. Hanabi said. Your 3 might want to stay back, this is way beyond the level any normal ninja can take on. Naruto said. Fu and Hanabi nodded, falling back, but Suigetsu stayed where he was. I'm not missing out on this, besides I've got to test out my new sword. Suigetsu said as he pointed to his back where 2 giant swords were crisscrossed. Suit yourself, just know that I'm not responsible if you get yourself killed. Naruto said as the army came into sight. He instantly picked out all 5 Kages in his family. They really aren't holding back. Suigetsu and Naruto stood there as the army got closer and still didn't do anything when they broke off to surround them. It might have seemed they were just that cocky, and to a certain extent that was true, but Naruto was getting a feel for them. You couldn't just smash 5 different types of ninja together and expect that they would work flawlessly without any team training. Naruto could already see some of the conflicts in the training each village had used. Kyumo ninja were trying to get closer to Naruto than the rest, and the Kirk ninja were backed away from the ground, almost creating a second layer. Some ninja would bump into each other as they tried to move to a position that they believed would be the best from them. It wasn't so broken that Naruto would deem them ineffective, but there were already cracks starting to appear. I'll only ask this once, are you willing to surrender? Gaara said. No, Naruto said as he prepared cyclones behind him. Then we have no choice today, you will be killed or captured. My bet is on the former. Said. Naruto didn't waste any more time and smashed his cyclones on the group in front of him. Suigetsu ran into the crowd and started tearing people up using the living sword. Kyumo nin were dispatched to deal with him while a few people moved to the front to deal with Naruto. These ninja did something very odd, they shot wires at Naruto. One of them hit Naruto and was reflected. The ninja that had thrown it grabbed it and retreated back into the crowd. They seemed to be waiting for something, but Naruto wasn't just going to stand there. He joined Suigetsu and the blood ran like water. Something was strange, however. They weren't attacking Naruto. Instead, they were keeping their distance. Of course, there was no distance that you could be safe from Naruto. But normally they would freak out and start attacking even if they knew it was useless. Then Naruto felt something hit his chakra and then his reflection destroyed itself. Shit, Naruto said as every ninja that had previously passive unloaded jutsus and kunais on him. Naruto quickly focused on replacing the chakra on his feet and jumped high into the sky, avoiding the destruction below him. So they figured it out, Naruto thought. This might be harder than he thought. Then Naruto heard someone counting below him. It was a Hyuga, and when the Hyuga got to 10 he stopped and shouted, 10 seconds, that how long it takes for him to restore his reflection. The crowd nodded and Naruto hissed. Naruto landed with his reflection back to normal and started to take things seriously. He avoided the wires that were again shot at him. You really think I'll fall for the same trick twice? Naruto yelled as he crushed one of those stupid ninja into the ground. Naruto wasn't going to let them do that again. But before he could even begin his real assault, something flew past him. Naruto looked behind him too. See a very liquidity Suigetsu. This sucks, Suigetsu said. Looks like you're on your own, just make sure to grab my swords when you're done. Suigetsu then started to leak into the cracks in the ground that had been caused by the battle. And then there was one, said the voice of the man who had defeated Suigetsu. One will be plenty. Naruto replied to the wreckage. Are you sure about that? Said as he charged his arm with lightning and ran at Naruto. Before Naruto could even decide if he should reflect it or dodge it and cause it was another trick, the ground above his feet rose so Naruto was standing on a stone pillar. A's target was no longer Naruto, but the pillar. The pillar was no match of A's strength and it crumbled away, leaving Naruto with no footing and failing directly onto A's electrocuting arm. Naruto quickly used his vectors to push him to side and avoided falling into what would have certainly been his death. But what Naruto did land on wasn't much better. A seal lit up under his feet and in an instant it absorbed some of his chakra and shot it back. Naruto reflection ruptured and A was coming right at him with his lightning fist. Naruto realized he was going to die in that moment, so his only choice was to, but something else happened. A chain wrapped around his stomach and flung him around. Naruto saw it was his dear sister that was holding the chain, but he was not thankful because he was on a collision course with Tsunade. He wouldn't get his reflection back up in time. By the time he reached her, he would still need 2 more seconds. He reached her just as she was pulling her arm back. The chain let go and Tsunade's fist buried itself in Naruto's face. Blood exploded from Naruto's new broken nose and his vision blurred as he was sent flying back. He tumbled on the ground, picking up cuts and scrapes as he went. Naruto realized what Minima had done. She wanted to make sure he lived through this battle, and the only way to do that was to capture him. She had sent him to Tsunade so she could use enough power to damage him, not kill him like I was going to do. Naruto got to his feet in a less than dignified manner as he faced the army that was after him. His reflection was back up, but he was badly hurt. Give up, Naruto. You've lost, Minato said. Naruto looked back at him with cold eyes. You know, if Tsunade had used enough force to kill me back there, you would have won. The truth is I was unprepared for that. But on the flip side, if you had done nothing, I would have won. In other words, you threw your one chance at victory away because you wanted to save me. Everyone looked at him strangely. What are you talking about? You've lost, just give up, Minato said. Naruto started laughing. If I was the old Naruto, you'd be right, but you came just a little too late. I have ascended. Naruto was laughing like a maniac, now blood dripping from his nose into his mouth. You thought I was heading to become God when you intercepted me, but the truth is we were coming back. I was going to do this right when it was about to kill me, but you threw me into Tsunade, which threw me off, but yet you didn't kill me. Now let me show you what your mercy gets when dealing with a god. Something started to emerge from Naruto's back. At first they thought it was more of his cyclones, but that wasn't it. There were 2 of them. They were both pitch black and they took the shape of wing. They were huge, easily being 5 times the height of Naruto. There was also the pressure that the wings themselves seemed to emit. It caused even the Kages to freeze up. But the worst part was only shown to the people who could see chakra. Naruto no longer had a thin chakra layer surrounding his body. He was now inside a dome of chakra that extended as far as his wings. It also wasn't just made up of his chakra, it was made up of demonic chakra as well. Once the wings had finished growing, Naruto looked at the every ninja in the group that had been sent to beat him like some kind of insect. Naruto was no longer thinking of them as enemy, instead they were pests. Calling what happened next a one-sided massacre would be giving them way too much credit.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.